and welcome to episode 518 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the writer behind many a comic in this world that you should check out. I can't wait to receive a big bundle of them myself. It's Tony Esmond.
Hello.
Hello there, Tony. How are you?
I'm never used to being first because it's always Danny Boy, innit? But he's off seeing his dad, isn't he? His mum. Yeah.
Daniel Butcher, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, Daniel Butcher isn't here this week on the Awesome Comics Podcast. He has taken his statutory leave for the...
He's using his time off.
Yeah, he's using his time off. And those that don't know about this show, we have a certain amount of sick days and holiday days that we have during the year, don't we? Or I think during the whole life cycle of this show.
I mean, technically on holiday, but you never ask him directions when you're on holiday with him because he'll go like this, it's over there, when he does all that.
Oh, yeah. The swans come out and all of a sudden they block out the sun. But
I miss him, but we got a replacement.
We do have it. You can't replace Dan, but I tell you what you can do.
You can add the sexy, sexy sauce.
You can add sex to this show, and that's what we've done this week. Our old pal Tom Curry's back. Welcome, Tom.
Hello. Hey. I was there knocking on the door all of May. I said, "Can I come in?" And it's like, "No.
No.
To May goes only."
No.
Yeah.
No.
And now, as soon as June rolls round, the door opens up and I'm back in, boys.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we're actually recording this in May, so don't fucking make me sense of it.
Oh, Tony, as always, Tony ruins it. You could never be in the magic circle.
There was me trying to keep.
I've been in a circle.
Thank you, Tom.
I've been in
appreciate
a sort of friendly circle before.
A different kind of circle, though, isn't it?
Bit
of a rudder.
My carpet.
Bit of a rude. Oh dear.
You got to go for parquet floor in that case, like it's just easy wipe.
Yeah, you're right.
Lovely bit of lino. Welcome to the show, everyone, and we hope wherever you are.
Lovely bit of lino. That's got to be the title of the show, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we know we've got another title, haven't we? We were laughing at it.
There could be. No, I don't think that's what this particular episode. We've been doing a bit of planning for future episodes and future guests, which is quite exciting. Tom, you'll find out about them off air.
I look forward to it,
yeah. We'll be doing planning for the next few weeks and months, seeing what's coming up, topics and just general good stuff. And there's going to be loads of comics to talk about. It's going to be quite the summer of comics, isn't it, guys? I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, summer of comics is lovely.
Hot comic summer.
Yeah.
Hot comic summer.
Oh, that's a good one. We haven't really focused on summer.
Well, they got the swimsuit special coming back, haven't they? At Marvel.
I thought you were talking about this show. I mean, we could do a swimsuit special because we are not a video show. Thank fuck.
I'll show my white bits.
Well, my laptop's not waterproof, so it's going to be no good here.
Perhaps we should look at like summer-based comic books in the future. I think that could be the summer holidays, because when you're a kid in the UK, or I guess in the world, when you're growing up and you're at school and you have that break from the education and you've got the 6-8 weeks, whatever it is, that is some great comics reading happened during that time, didn't it?
Well, fun fact, I'm sure our American friends will back us up. In America, annuals tended to come out in the summer. In the UK, Christmas.
Yeah, I was always more of a Christmas thing. But
so we kind of had summer specials, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Be like Marvel Team Up summer special or something like that.
I didn't know that in the US they were in the annuals.
I think that's
in the
right.
Summer.
Somebody backed me up on that, American friends, but I think that's right. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Interesting. Annuals, I feel like that's another. Oh, I mean, already we've just started. Now I've got.
Well, we could do an annual episode.
Do you know?
Let's do annuals.
Get the Don on. Get the Don
on.
Oh,
mate, he's got a room full of annuals.
Yeah.
He's got a garage of annuals. That man.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
he'd been busy. He'll have been at Lawless, didn't he? I got some pictures back from Eamonn from Lawless.
Ah, fantastic.
Nice.
Today looks like it was good. Yeah.
And because I'm covering down Lawless 2026 double. Sorry, I said it too early. Apologies. I just had.
Yeah. That's you're probably bang on the money though, Tom. But what we are doing this week, just to kick off the month of June, is we've got a couple more topics. We've had a lot of fun and interesting discussions over the past few weeks, just throwing questions, comic book questions at each other, and also it's been fun to see like the comics community discussing it elsewhere as well. And if anyone who listens to this show or has been part of the community, one of the great things about it is actual genuine discourse and there's no judgment around it. It's genuinely.
There's no conversation that happens in comics anymore, sadly.
Yeah.
Very little. Yeah.
So we've got some interesting questions, including one from Danny B. Danny
B.
Yeah.
You can hear him at the airport, desperately, doing it before he has to turn off his phone, going to airplane mode.
He's about to buy a book for his son.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's buying some pick a mix for the plane, some Haribo.
So we can find out what happened on his vacation next time. So you got time to prepare your story, Dan, if you're listening to this.
Erotica too. I never realised.
I know. Have you seen the first one?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, you started in it, didn't you?
Well, part of me did.
Yeah. Were you there cleaning the lens afterwards and that kind of
Oh God!
With a mop.
Surely they have like a splash mat or something. Anyway, this is going to be. We do have some interesting questions, and one that. Now, Tony, you say this could be potentially controversial. We're going to kick one off that's kind of
well, no, it's not, is it? It's nothing that any sensible person doesn't realise.
Yeah. And it is, of course, open to bigger discussion. And a lot of these questions, actually, we're just opening them up to the room. It's not. They are sort of like, what do you think of this? And then we can get on our soapboxes about it. But of course, whatever the questions are, the answers are. They're just our opinions. Nothing's really based in fact, unless we've actually got facts written down in front of us. And do keep the conversation going, whether it be on the Slack community, whether it be on Instagram, or with your friends in the coffee shop. If this these sort of questions have sparked your imagination and got you thinking about comics in general. And we've tried to be sort of a little. It's less about the big two, as such. It's more just comics in general. And I've got one this week to kick us off with.
Okay.
It's great that you're here, Tom, for this, because obviously there's the three of us, but you read a lot of different comics to us.
Are you on Global Comics as well, are you, Tommy boy?
To be honest, I'm not on Global Comics.
Right, fair enough.
And I did the free trial. I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to warrant that ongoing cost.
Yeah.
Right.
When there's things I prefer to read, like I'm more of a manga reader, and I prefer.
Yeah, I was about to say, what are you subscribed to in that sense?
So Shonen Jump, because it's the biggest and easiest, and then a few other smaller ones that will do kind of like more of the adult comics.
Okay.
More of those kind of like, and then also there's also loads you can get from the library as well. So I'm not short of things to read. So that's generally how I approach it.
What about webtoons and your web comics and such? Do you dabble in that occasionally?
I will occasionally get into them for like, so for example, when I think one of a few times I was on it, I've recommended Lore Olympus, and as a case of like, cool, this is what I'm really enjoying, and go through it, and like that was the only thing I'll read for like a few weeks, and then I'll fall off the train on that one, and almost thinking a bit like Saga in the sense of like, I know Saga's there, I know Saga's doing its thing, and I'll go back to it at some point. And
I'll get to it eventually. Yeah, that's the way I feel about a lot of comics and everything at the moment. Yeah.
Do you think there's a sense of? We're already getting into debate before the question, but would you call those almost comfort comics in a sense? Because like the quality's going to be there and it's going to be good. You've just dropped out of it. But when you drop back in, you're fairly...
something like Usagi or something as
well. You're fairly sure you know what you're going to get when you go back to it.
If I sort of cycle back to Saga particularly, I remember reading Saga when it first came out and thinking, this seems like it's going to be special.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that first trade and being like, this is going to be really good. I don't want to pick up any... I know there's going to be a lovely big collection, like the Usagi collection, like the Metabarons collection, for example. There's going to be a lovely big collection. I don't want to double dip on this to an extent. So like, I'll buy this digitally until it's done, and then I'll pick up the big collection when it's the big sort of like
omnibus sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think because that series has had ups and downs in terms of production, in terms of massive breaks taken, which I think have kind of took the winds out of its sails quite a while for like the 2-3 years it was offline. There's an element of like, I know that story's ongoing, and I've only heard reasonably positive things about it, so I'm happy to kind of wait for it to get to a big point. So I've got like a nice good 2-3 week block of reading.
Those sort of series are interesting, aren't they? Because like a Saga has a real pure fan for it. I mean, I haven't kept up with it, but I know there are fans of Saga that are diehards fans of Saga. Yeah. So as soon as it comes back, it's like, oh, it's wonderful, it's back. But what's that like for other fans of Saga who aren't necessarily diehards, but maybe does the extended break time do something?
If we go to like another two series, again, I'm thinking about Danny B here. Invincible. So my introduction to Invincible was there was a humble bundle. It was all for sale, and I'd years of hearing Dan talk about it. So it's fucking. I'll just pick it up, and then spend 2-3 weeks reading it in all in one go.
Yeah.
And then be able to go back to Dan and say, oh yeah, this is Oliver's just been introduced. Do you think he's going to be very, and go through that kind of thing with him?
Yeah.
And that was quite fun. That was a really interesting reading experience compared to do it week to week. Whereas Tony, you've been reading X-Men for years, right? And like you've kept over that series, so you're never going to have that experience of reading all in one block, apart from when you perhaps go back and revisit.
Yeah,
and
I think experience.
It's a very different experience. And I think same with like Walking Dead, right? You could easily, again, another one that comes on Humble Bundle all the time. And you can easily pick up that for what, 20 quid the whole thing, and then you've got like a good. If you're going away to you're off to Magaluf, and in between all the clubbing, you think, you know what, I fancy a bit of Walking Dead. You can easily crack that out on the iPad and have like a really solid reading experience there.
Yeah.
And it does.
There were also series that chose to end, didn't they? They had an end point. It wasn't like eventually it just fizzled out and stopped.
Yeah. And I think
both of those series could have kept going for
some
time.
You need time from sometimes. I think the one example is, do you remember the Declan Shalvey, Warren Ellis, Geordie Belair comic Injection? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember it.
Yeah.
I think sort of 2014, 2015. I read the first volume of my son's version of that and really enjoyed it, and kept meaning to get back into it. And then I think Declan posted about he wasn't doing it anymore because of the fallout around Warren Ellis. His decision. I'm not particularly in agreement with him, but he decided to do that. And because my opinion was like, I don't like that's come between this creative project, I'm going to leave it. And I left it for a while, even though I really enjoyed it. I left it a while and then went back to it years later, in fact, recently, to read it and enjoyed it more, because I just needed that time in my brain to put aside the fucking social media drama that was involved in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I find that as well. That's how I like to enjoy just a lot of media, but just books in general, just comic books. We did speak about like classic books and stuff recently, but when something kicks off and the entire world is talking about how great it is, I'm probably staying away from it.
Yeah, me too, man. The only reason I'm reminded to talk about it is EOC talked about it this week. Then plus I got it through. There's a big omnibus came out. But yeah, if I'm almost the opposite. If people say something's brilliant, I probably won't. Maybe we'll leave it to get back to it. You know, you got that thing where people sort of scream and shout about recent things that are brilliant, and it's more that it's recent, or it's part of it is that it's recent than if it's good. And sometimes time will tell with something. I think.
But also there is something nice about. Do you remember when Monsters came out?
Yeah.
And all you guys were very excited about Monsters, and it was like, you couldn't buy one for love of money, and and there's your copy there. And like if I was at my house, I'd be able to show you my copy as well. Like that was, and there was something quite exciting about finding a copy, picking it up, and then reading it.
Being part of that.
Being part of that. In the same way with like Fargo, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's almost with comics and books and stuff. It's most. I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite here in a certain way, And I think with a lot of films, TV series, maybe novels or whatever. I'll let the wave pass. But there has been times where one and done stories. Usually nothing to do with the big two, maybe a graphic novel, like you say. I think Monsters was a brilliant example of that, Tom. Kent State or something like that. You just hear all this and you need to get on it. It was one of those, I need to check this out. And I think it was also because it wasn't so much any algorithm or any online article. It was voices that I trusted recommending, like, I think this would be not trying to hard sell it, trying to hard sell it, just sort of like
and the format as well. I think sometimes monthly comics can not be quite as the event as fat comics that come out. Like Kent State, like you're saying, we know that that's not going to continue on. We know it's just this one thing. Like the newest Daniel Clowes and stuff like that. It's there. There's nothing going to be more to it. It's just sitting there on its own. And I'm quite happy to read it.
When it is that one and done hit, the reaction and the feeling about it is purer, because that's all we're getting of this. So we know that this was the perfect we were looking for. Whereas sometimes it's like, this is the greatest series ever. This is wonderful. The first 3 volumes are amazing. Tell me what you think.
And then someone pisses on our chips.
Yeah.
So this is kind of go back to a topic you talked about a couple of weeks back in terms of when they bring in celebrities to write comics.
Yeah.
And for a time, I was listening to another podcast in between reruns of.
How dare you get off?
I know. I'm sorry.
Smash some sand.
There can be only one. Anyway.
It was it was a Marvel's. It was another different podcast that had these brothers on called the McElroys.
Yeah.
And they got wheeled in to write a Marvel series called Marvel War of the Realms: Journey to Mystery.
Yep.
Volume 1. It was crap. It was and they fucking hell. Every week I listen to those fuckers talk about it and promote it and say like, oh, how it was the best work. It was shite.
But that's, I mean, that does step into Vince's question a bit about. I almost feel there's a balance between people saying how brilliant their own comic is compared to the quality being fucking far below their opinion of it. You know,
so
sometimes that's not always. Sometimes that's the dynamic.
To steer away from Vince's question because I like to sound my own voice for a second. This it came out monthly, and I remember reading the first one and like getting a bit sort of jazzed about it. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna read the first one. It was crap, and I thought, well, that was gonna wait until it gets to issue 5, and I'll read it all in one go. Still crap. Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, people just loving the smell of their own shit. Basically, this is the
Yeah, I think that, and we have spoken to many creators, artists, writers, and stuff, and usually all of them, the ones that are the biggest talents, that do the best work, they normally say in their communications, "I really hope you enjoy this," I'm proud of this, so hope you like it, rather than this is the best thing you'll ever read.
Yeah,
because
that feels grifty to me sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, the sell can come afterwards. And even in
that should be someone
line.
Else saying that.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a little English thing or British thing we've got where we don't really like that hard sell by people. But if someone said to me, "Look, I'm really pleased with this. I think it might be my best thing yet that I've written yet."
Yes,
fine.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, but if they're saying, "This is fucking gonna kill, man."
Yeah, I mean,
it's not WWE, is it? Do you know what I mean?
It's the way. And more's the pity. I'd be power bombing everyone. But I mean, it's also down to the individual, because I can't imagine Daniel Warren Johnson saying this is the best comic you'll ever read.
Yeah.
The irony of that is there's a good fucking chance that he's right, because of the quality of that man's work. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it speaks for itself.
I don't think there's anything wrong. Go on, sorry.
No, go.
But I don't think there's anything wrong being proud of a comic.
Absolutely.
And in the same way with Christ, going to be crucified now. The author of Big Game,
Mark Millar.
Oh, Millar.
Mark Millar, right? Like he was clearly proud of that work.
Yeah.
I'm clearly proud of that and that sort of story arc. But there's nothing wrong with. And when he came,
for me, he kind of. I haven't seen everything he said, but he kind of said this is the best art you're going to see all month, which. There's a grey line for me that because he's very encouraging and promotional of his artists.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's
there's a lot of writers that do that as well, don't they? They really sort of like, look, check this out. I mean, you go online and you see someone like Ram V, who's like fucking killing it with DC or whatever. But I've seen him post a lot of things going, look at these amazing pages by whatever artist he's working with.
Yeah.
I think that's a classy act for a writer to do. I think, rather because. A lot of the time in writing, you're standing on the shoulders of the art, that especially with comics. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what people are going to see.
You can tell so much about someone with an exchange, can't you?
Yeah.
And I finally got to read. We'll talk about it later. Electric Chair 3 from Falpy today, which is part of our Kickstarter bundle. And I said to him, "I think this is your best one so far, mate." In a text this morning, and he says, "Oh, thanks, dude. That's really kind of you." But if he'd have said, "Yeah, I think so too," I'd go, "Fuck off, Falpy, you wanker." Do you know what I mean? It'd be like that, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? But because he's like humble about it, it's something about that is more endearing to me.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's have your questions, Sexbot.
Say, I didn't expect. So we've already kicked off the atmosphere for this week's show. So here's the first question, and look forward to hearing what everyone's thoughts are on this outside the show as well as within. We like everyone, as we say on this show, to sort of read and make comics, whatever they may be. We're very sort of like, please read and please make comics. You got to find the joy in it, sort of nurture that passion for the medium that we have, and there are no matter what age you are. I mean, Lord knows, I was making comics when I was 8, 10, 12. Do you know what I mean?
Me too, man. Yeah.
I found those little folded over bits of A4 or little A6s or whatever. But in this modern day and age, of course, you make something, click, it's there for everyone. And in a world where there's, dirge is the wrong word, but there's so much to see now. It also makes it more difficult for independent voices to be seen sometimes. So my question is, should there be more quality control and curation of what is readily available within some stores, apps and publishers?
Can I answer this and give it a slightly extra dimension?
Yeah,
so
please, because I think the question deserves a bit more.
So I think, make what you like. No one's stopping you.
Yeah.
Unless it's illegal, do what you like.
Yeah.
The thing is, the whole different thing from making a comic and giving it to your mates to putting it somewhere for sale. Now, I think once you're charging people for it, and let's face it, a lot of comics are sold sight unseen these days. You're charging, a hefty amount of money these days. The comics are not a cheap medium. Even the cheapest is still much more expensive than, a coffee for an hour in a coffee shop. So I think it changes. That dynamic changes as soon as you put it out and expect people to pay for it. And I think it has to have a level of competence and readability.
Yeah.
There's got to be a product that can be read.
Okay. I'm going to throw something else. I'm going to throw something else into that, Tony, about what you just said. How does that factor in with webcomics, which, as we know, open forum, most are free to read, and they get collected after, some ones, but anyone can make them. They're there for. I
think I've got less of a problem with that. I think, apart from my time is money. And my time is limited, but I've got less of a problem with it. I still will point out if something isn't very good. I think that's fair enough. Mostly if it's terrible, you only got to look at tops and bottoms every week on my website. It's sort of the stuff that is the bottom is just incredibly bad. There's no getting around it. There's a lot of amazing comics out there, and there's a lot of very bad comics. But I think I've got less of a problem if it's free. Go on, man.
So I I kind of fundamentally agree with you, but to make the conversation a bit more interesting, I'm going to try and sort of play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Please do. I think we're all going to be playing devil's advocate to a certain level. Go on.
So if we take your point about if they're charging, no one's forcing them to buy it.
Yeah, I agree. I massively agree. But the problem is, you don't see the interiors.
Well, yeah, there you go. Now. There is obviously we've all been caught by the the pretty cover, and then you open it up and they paid for the artists, and the insides don't represent that. But I don't know. Yeah, and how much of that do we really see in terms of? Do you think I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about the 3 times I've been to Gosh, there's not a lot, especially if we think about the indie section particularly. There's not a lot of indie which is bagged. You can't have a quick flip.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking more when I buy from previews or I buy from the Spin Planet site. It used to be you used to be able to read the first few pages. You can't really do that anymore on a lot of sites. But yeah. I mean, the thing is, at Gosh, you can put them back. You can open them, look at them, and put them back. Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all done the thing where we've gone round a con, Bristol, that ball bubble, and we've picked up a thing, looked at it, smiled, and gone, "Well, thanks," and then you move on with your day.
And I think if there's something like digital,
or Guilt bought it.
Yeah.
Or Guilt,
yeah. I know with digital as well, like on Comixology, which I've used a couple of times recently. There's always the read a sample. You can read it. You can look at a few pages of it, and I do that every fucking time now, unless I'm absolutely guaranteed that I know what's coming in the interiors. I'm not fooled by a shiny cover anymore, because that digital thumbnail is a mirage a lot of the time. So I always read the sample to see that what I'm getting into it is going to be.
But that's the advantage of you mostly reading digital. See, I live in the land of pre-ordering physical.
Yeah, That's the thing is you don't get that. You just don't get that whatsoever. It's a lottery.
I think there's an element, especially with everyone has a first comic they made. And you make a comic. It's never an easy even with tools that are available. It's never an easy process. And to to make it to put out there, to create the PDF, to put out there onto Global Comics or Comixology or whatever, and then for it to be read. Like if everyone has a first one, and there's always been rough around the edges. No one comes out the gate swinging, and the idea of quality control, especially in that kind of level, it feels a bit. You don't want to stop someone before they've got started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what that was one of the things that interested me about this question, because it could be so many. So many people are going to get their heckles up about this, and that's why these sort of things should be discussed. Do you know what I mean? Because it's an uncomfortable conversation in many ways, because it's almost like you're saying there is stuff that is just not good enough.
I think worth the money is the way I feel about it.
Yeah, which we don't want to say. Which I don't want to go around going.
Not good enough to make and draw and hand to your friends I don't think is a definition I want to live in a world where there is. Yeah. But good enough for me to pay you £5 for.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel that it should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost that. Mm-hmm. Money ain't easily come by these days. Let's face it. Yeah. And comics have never been this expensive.
Yeah. With those sort of I just thought about this as you were talking about it, Tony. With those sort of previews, shot in the darks that you take sometimes, is there any way, because everything is so digital now, everything, if you're interested in something, could you Google it? Could you search it?
Not really. I mean, I've just done.
Find something.
I've just done the August. I've just done the August previews.
Right.
So I've ordered my comics from August, which obviously I'll order in a month, and it's cheaper on. I have two ways of buying comics. I buy them weekly at Gosh. I have X-Men, Avengers, a couple of things on my Gosh pull list, and then I go through Forbidden Planet and buy through their subscription and their pre-order service. Now, the pre-orders that just came out were for the May previews, which is the one that just come out, which is for August comics. And a lot of them don't even have the covers available. So you can't see the interior art for them. Most of them name the artist, but doesn't mean a great deal.
Sorry, can I just you do it this way because you get it slightly cheaper doing that?
I get it much cheaper, yeah. I mean, look, give a shout. I mean, the Forbidden Planet has a lot of failings. Sure. I've been shopping at Forbidden Planet since the 80s, but a $4.99 comic, which would cost you elsewhere £4.90, costs you £3.30 at Forbidden Planet if you pre-order it.
Okay.
So significant savings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with, like the numbers you do, that makes
it's massively worth it for me.
And like roughly, what's your even including like the big two, what's your hit rate in terms of like you go away and think that was okay to. How often do you get stung this way?
I don't know whether part of my psyche blanks a few out, mate.
Fair
I'll
enough.
be honest with you.
Of course.
I haven't bought a good X-Men comic for a year.
Do you think?
And I buy 5 or 6 a month. You know?
Yeah. And obviously, knowing you, Tony, and I think all of us here, we try not to. I mean, we have the occasional discussion, but we sort of try to keep it to a minimum. The amount of ranting about how much something is like a comic is shit.
We try to make it constructive, don't we? I think is the idea.
And
you can only. My best example of that is last week's overwritten comic, which we discussed overwriting and how much but we also talked about what great art is in it.
Yeah. But sometimes there's just sort of like some of the voices online, aren't they? They're just so fucking cynical or hateful and stuff. It's like, why this is doing absolutely no good. Just read.
There's no balance anymore, mate.
No.
You got the attack dogs of fucking YouTube saying everything's shit, and then you've got a couple of websites that say everything's amazing, and you're like, there's no one in the middle going, well, this is just what normal Joe Public thinks. Yeah. This is quite good. Yeah. This is this could do with improvement. Yeah.
And I think the almost the danger word that I had in the question was curation, because that for me that's such a
the little bit gatekeepy.
Yeah, I was about to say some people will immediately take that as gatekeepy.
There are times where curation is important. For example, so let's say let's say from a convention point of view.
Yeah.
You've got a convention with like a really strong kid focus to it. So let's say it's a convention about getting kids
that's a good shout.
Yeah. Absolutely, you need a level of curation there, and even on the application process, saying, hey,
someone like Macc Pow are going to be completely on that, surely. Yeah, because they're so kid focused, aren't they?
Yeah,
So could
exactly.
Yeah.
So that, and in the same way, if you had a film festival focused on like film noir, for example, and you were like, oh, can I bring my comics along, and they have meet that brief, great.
And America runs quite a lot of sort of underground comics conventions now as well. And I think all these people who turn up and think, oh, I've got an underground comic. Well, you haven't really, have you? You know, I think there's a bit of that going on sometimes as well. Yeah.
I think curation in that sense to sort of like keep spaces where they need to be in terms of like we've got a theme, you want to keep that theme spot on. I think curation for quality is where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
Because between all three of us, the things that we're all gonna get
absolutely, it's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? It's totally
absolutely yeah.
Yeah, there is that grey line. It strays across, doesn't it, between what is good and what is not, compared to what you like and you don't like.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a big channel in the middle there where they in a Venn diagram where they cross over, isn't there?
Oh really God, and that's been there since the beginning.
Oh, it's forever since art's been created.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be open and honest here. I've not read a Liefeld comic that I enjoy. I've tried. I just have. I cannot find one I enjoy.
But there's a legion.
But I'm sure,
there's a legion that love them. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And there's certain like artists, like classic artists, that I've just never got on board with. I know I had the Kirby turnaround when I got it, but there's other artists that have just never really been for me. Do you know what I mean?
I think the thing with Liefeld is I get it sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't particularly enjoy it, but I get it, the energy in it.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah, I'm not saying it's brilliant. I know you'll never catch me saying it's brilliant, but it's sort of.
But also, I would never. Yeah, I would never want to curate him out from a thing in terms of like.
Yeah.
This service or this thing doesn't need his comics. Well, no, I mean obviously lots of people love them.
Yeah.
And the same way that probably people find like Magnola's, not Magnolia, sorry.
Mignola,
thank you. Magnolia's artwork a bit tricky sometimes. That's. Yeah, I mean,
I think different with Magnolia is you might not like it, but you still probably appreciate the craft.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love his stuff. Yeah. I think it's brilliant. But I do think you could look at that. It's not an easy read for some people.
Yeah.
You think like that first time reading Seed Destruction, that's not an easy read for a lot of people to get through.
Yeah, and it's like that for every artist, every art style.
There's a few artists that come along that change the dynamic of comics a little bit, don't they? Yeah. They shift it a little bit. Mike McMahon, when he came on Slane, for example, we talked about that a few weeks ago. That's the one. There's a few things. Sienkiewicz, when he came on the Mutants, which I complained about previously as well. But there's a little twist sometimes, and it takes a while for people to get it, I think. Yeah. And mostly, I like to think that I'm adult enough not to say, well, that's shit now. I may have said it when I was a kid, but there is comics out there that suddenly one of the idiots from, let's say, Global Comics, who's photographed his comic with his thumb in the picture, suddenly if he took over New Mutants, I'd be going, no, that is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a grifter somewhere within any fucking industry or medium.
But there's grifters as well who get the ball rolling by saying that they're brilliant and won't have it, and just everyone's I'm like, what is going on here? Why do people think this is good?
So I think especially with it's going to a moment of time before this came up with the rise of AI tools to help generate these things.
Yeah.
And a little aside, something I find quite interesting. So as a lot of you know, I work for the University of Bristol, and they're all over it. They love AI. And
interesting.
We've got a whole big AI centre down in towards the outskirts of town. One of the buildings I'm in, a psychology building, is put in AI bits of artwork on the walls, and like replacing sort of like people's hand drawn stuff with this instead. So they're kind of like the mood from at least the institution is very much like a 2 thumbs up, let's fucking go.
I just had a real emotional response to something.
I know.
Well, it's interesting because I work quite a lot on that in that field as well, in relation to the use of it as a propaganda tool, and it's becoming a real thing in terms of like the universities of like they're picking up on it and running with it, frankly. I think with the use of tool, like if it's used as a tool to help make comics, it takes a lot of soul out of it. And if it's used as like a drawing tool, but not a soul. I'm using the wrong phrasing now. How do I phrase this correctly? If you think of like Poser, you know what I mean? Like you can use Poser to help set up a scene and then use that to help influence what you draw. Maybe that's okay, but if we see it being used solely, then like, is that quite like? Would you be happy paying for an AI-based comic? No, probably not. Well, we've said this before. AI is being used to diagnose cancer, so I'm not against it. But in comics, I'm not that keen on it. Yeah, I don't like it.
And there's been, I mean, I know Dan B, God rest his soul. as he said many times, just to speak his voice, they're fucking everywhere. They are everywhere,
Yeah.
and I've read stuff, and I've read it, because the cover seems really nice, and I've got about the second page, and there's been something in my brain that's like, this isn't. I don't think this is just the way.
I don't know how to put my finger on it. I think I once said
there is some
soul
sort of,
somehow.
And you can see it, and then as you flick through it, and I was almost, this particular comic I was talking about, I was almost like swiping through the pages, almost like it was less a reading experience and more an investigation of how. It was like, okay, where are the seams? Where are this?
Yeah.
And
do you know what? It's accelerating so much.
Yeah.
I saw some video clip on social media earlier today of two women talking, and then I thought, oh, what's that about? It's like one of those question in the street videos, you see them all the time. And then it said, this is AI, and I'm like, no way. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
It is, and I think like that kind of curation, saying, hey, in this festival, on this platform, on this whatever, we just want to, no AI.
Yeah.
Again, perfectly reasonable.
I think.
Yeah. It's about art. It's about,
To sort of wind this question that is no doubt getting a lot of people talking or screaming already down in a way. I think one of the things I'm concerned about when it comes to this quality / whatever it may be, and the abundance of it, is I wonder what some creators or artists, or as we know, we search for the diamonds in the rough. We search for the needles in the haystack sometimes. The creator that no one's heard of yet, or when we discover them, they've made 4 small press comics. They're absolutely astonishing. How has anyone not discovered this person?
Yeah.
And sometimes that question, how has anyone not discovered this person, is because all of their great stuff has been lost amongst a sea of other stuff that just isn't up to mustard, because there's more of it. It's being released quicker, or there's an algorithm or something like that where it's pushing people almost off the digital shelf, almost off the vision. I'm worried about the amazing stuff and the amazing work and the amazing creators we're not seeing, of all kinds, from all over the world, because there's a lot of other stuff that just gets updated quicker. And these could be from, I don't know, well-meaning kids who are like doing their first webcomic, and it's just they're uploading it constantly and it's being refreshed. But because it's being refreshed, it's always there at the front of the queue. And if you're at the front of the queue, someone's behind you.
A good point, man, as always. But can I just interject? We've just had a message through from Simon to say Peter David died.
Oh.
I've just checked his Wikipedia, and it looks like it has. Yeah, that's sad, isn't it? Consistent, that brilliantly consistent writer. Oh, what a shame.
I mean, this will be old news by the time this episode
of
comes
course,
out.
yeah.
But I'm going to keep this bit in because it's relevant.
Yeah.
So people will know exactly when we recorded this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that. It's just that, I put that thing out earlier. Has anyone got a shout out?
Yeah.
And I just checked to see if anyone had said it, and Simon had said just check, but I think Peter Davis has died. And oh man, how sad! Last time I saw him, I did have a bit of an argument with him. But I've always stopped and spoke to him and bought his books and comics, and I mean the Incredible Hulk run, the X Factor run, the Star Trek stuff, the Babylon 5 stuff.
Well, as always, if you're a fan of his work, maybe go back to your shelves and pick up one of those books you like, and just give it another read.
Yeah.
He's still one of the great writers there for me. We talk about consistency, and is he on the Hulk for the longest run ever? I think. I've got a load of his Star Trek books on the shelf next to me, Imzadi and all this sort of thing.
Yeah,
what a shame.
I'm gonna go back, do some rereading, frankly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to do it.
First time I met him, he'd just come out of a toilet, right?
That's where you meet a lot of people, to be fair, Tony.
Yeah, we're always meeting in toilets, crossing the streams. And he'd had a massive download, I'm going to say that way. He downloaded the Brownload, and he fucking. I said to him, "Oh, I was just like, because I'd managed to blag my way in early into the New York Comic Con, and he's like there, and I'm like, oh, Pete David, I really love your work, and I shook his hand. I remember thinking, his hand's quite sweaty. He's just had a hard time in there. You know what I mean? And but he was perfectly nice to me, really nice. And then I went back and found him a couple of days later and bought like he was selling like signed scripts of comics.
Okay.
It was difficult as a writer, isn't it, to make money at a table in a convention?
Yeah.
So he'd come up with this thing where he's selling signed scripts, and then a couple of years ago, last time I went to New York a couple of years ago, I had a row with him about whether Babylon 5 was coming back.
Always the most important of conversations. So I was telling you.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that's such a shame.
Wow.
Okay, sorry to interject there. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I felt inauthentic to carry on without saying that.
Yeah. And I think there's not too much more to say about this question. I think it's such an open and a grey area. I'm certainly in no position to sort of say, oh, this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough. I'm always going to be on the hunt for the stuff that ticks the box that I like to read in. And when you discover those books, you can delve further into it. So I would sort of say, I hope there's creators that listen to this or their work is being seen. Because we do shout that anyone can make comics, anyone should make comics, so just go and make them. But because everyone's making comics, I also hope that people are seeing your comics, unless of course they're just for you. Unless they're just for you, then just make your comics and just take joy in that. But I hope your comics voice is being heard and seen in some ways. And if not, for any, if you have any particular experiences, positive and negative, there's all experiences are valid. Then please do get in touch with us and let us know on this topic, because I think it's one that, I thought of the question and it was just like a talking point. What can we discuss about this? But it's something that people could have genuine experiences of. Maybe it affected them negatively with their work, or maybe positively, or something like that. So please do get in touch with us if you've got any. I know the Slack community is always good for it, but you can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com if you just want to email us about that. Likewise with anything that we talk about. But that was the first one. Now
that took a while.
Yeah, that took a while.
Sorry, guys, I'm still a bit fucking.
Yeah,
I'm still a bit sad about that.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're losing them, man. We're losing them.
Yeah.
All the greats are going.
Yeah, we are.
Such a
Well,
shame.
I mean, that's that. Hopefully, more people realise they're greats before they're gone. That's the.
Yeah, like we said this a few weeks ago, and I know Jason said it on EOC. Take that opportunity, go and shake someone's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, I know. What would you, if you said like, okay, we're coming into the week, what would you recommend from Peter David's back catalogue people to read?
I reread his X Factor a few years ago,
cool.
And it's such a great, good story, nice little twists, soap opera-y kind of superhero team. You don't really, there's a couple of little bits happen elsewhere, but you don't really need to read anything else.
When did he come on to X Factor?
Oh God, he was on it for I think like 100 issues or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it was when Multiple Man and
I was about to say that was when Madrock and what was their big tall guy?
Siren, and then you had Wolfsbane and Shatterstar and all that stuff.
Okay.
Did he jump on after because obviously X Factor originally started? It was the OG X-Men, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think what happened, the numbering's a bit weird. As I recall, let me just make sure this is right. I think he jumps on at the end of that first run, which ran for quite a few hundred issues. And then it goes into its own numbered series, and I think there's a Madrox mini-series as well.
Right.
So I think that's the way to read it. His Hulk stuff is great. I mean, and that's all different. It does a Vegas crime story. It does a super team, sci-fi team story. It does all sorts of things in that. That's good as well.
Yeah.
If you're into Star Trek, it's Star Trek. I think he writes some of the best Star Trek comics, and I really enjoy his Star Trek novels. You're a Trekkie, aren't you?
I am, big Trekkie. Yeah, really love it. So I mean, I probably will I'll probably jump into the Star Trek stuff. But yeah, also
Next Generation books really good.
Amazing.
Looking,
yeah. I'll have a look at the X Factor stuff as well. That's
yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. I really do.
I'll check it out, man. I'll check it out.
Nice. But from that sad news to our next section, Tony, do you want to jump in with this one with your?
Oh, we're not going to do Dan's. You want to do this quick one?
Let's do this quick one and then we'll finish.
Yeah, we're in the welfare section for Tony now, aren't we? So I have a couple of pals at work. I say welfare session, and it's just mostly me telling blue jokes. Okay, so where and when do you enjoy reading comics the most? I've given a few examples. Over a coffee in the morning? ? When the family is in bed, on the bus. Can you think of the perfect reading experience? Now, not what the comic is, but there might have been a moment in your life. And I'll give you my example first. So, I remember it was Preacher, so it was a significant comic in my life, and a comic I think is good. I was reading. I went to see my parents, and they weren't in. So they used to live up on the coast of Scotland. They retired up there, and they weren't in. So I thought, what am I going to do? I don't want to sit in my car. I'm in the most beautiful landscape in the world. So I stuck Preacher in my backpack, and I went for a walk. And I sat on the edge by the sea. It was kind of warmish, autumny kind of early evening, and I read a whole volume of Preacher, sitting there. This is before mobile phones. Sitting there thinking, I'll give it a good hour before I go back, and hopefully they'll be home. And I remember it just being this sort of perfect reading experience of mine, and it's sort of a memorable one. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it can be like a general one for you guys. It doesn't have to be a single one, but I just wonder what you thought.
Yeah. Tom, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So most mornings, work mornings, I'll get up earlier than my wife. I'll make a cup of tea, then crack on to work. But on the weekends, she gets up earlier than me, and she'll get up, make a cup of tea, and bring it into the bed, and then we'll try and read together for like an hour, maybe hour and a half, kind of most weekend mornings. And it's just that kind of nice, sun's coming through the curtains, the cat's coming on the bed, and it's just like
It's nothing quite like a morning routine, is it?
It's not. It's like, and also the kind of the warmth of the bed's still there, and it just and yet you stink a little bit because you just you've been in bed all night and that kind of jazz. But it's just a nice time to sort of like get some reading done.
Yeah. Have you and your partner got similar reading?
No, not at all.
No, okay.
Not
Right.
not as light as she's on a big. Well, actually, I say that like she's on a big. She's been learning Japanese.
Oh,
She's
right.
doing a lot of like Japanese fiction. And there I am reading like translated manga. So actually, it's not that far off, is it?
Yeah.
I suppose so. Yeah. So when you say, so she's reading in the original Japanese, or
she's trying to, yeah. And
wow.
She's trying to read it in the original Japanese, or she's got like 2 copies of it, and it's effectively trying to work out. So things like
Haruki Murakami, I'm going to say she must have read.
She's been going through that.
Oh, I love him. Oh man, I love him so much.
There was so it's really what she's finding. Sorry, it's a massive tangent. What she's finding interesting is how English has been translated. So in Japan, they've got these things called idols, who are basically pop stars. And in the English translation, they just translated like idol. But she was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because it'd be more like saying pop star or saying, celebrity, basically. And it's just that's what she's reading. But yeah, those kind of moments of like shared quiet with someone else.
When nobody's going to bother you, man, as well. I think that's part of mine. I had a pager at the time, but I'm like, my phone wasn't bleeping.
It is such a personal experience reading a comic. I mean, we've said it many times on this show before, because it's just you and the book you're reading.
It's a bit like reading a novel. It's one of the few hobbies out there that you can't do anything else at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can listen to music whilst driving, or you can watch a movie whilst looking at your phone. Really, but a comic.
But sometimes because it's better than a novel. But you know what I mean. But because like prose books, all of those words on a page, if you're tired or something like that, it can sometimes just the information's just not going in there. Do you know what I mean? But the comics, the visuals are there. So even if you're not necessarily getting the words, the artist is definitely doing something to your brain in some kind of way. Even if you think, oh, I read a comic and got absolutely nothing from it, you thought something. As it's always interactive with you. A comic, I think, in that way, it's such a fascinating medium in that way, and because it's so personal, I think this sort of question is a lovely question, Tony, because I think it leads everyone to just think about just a positive thing to think about, and it is a little It may seem over the top, but it's a little religious experience. It's our little.
No, it is massively.
It's a little pilgrimage, isn't it? It's a little. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you have your favourite way of like reading comics. The ones that I can think of, and I love those moments if I can sit down in a comfortable chair, hot drink on a coaster near me. I can put my feet up, and I've just got some time to like. It's usually rather than the individual issues. That sort of experience for me, I set aside for a bigger read. I'm gonna read a volume of something. I'm gonna read a lot of books. And certainly that was the kind of experience that I had like a couple of years ago when I read like Black Science. Over a week, I was like every night it was a different volume of Black Science, and that was such a wonderful experience for me because that was just I set aside. I'm going to read that one today, and it was like I put myself aside. I had the cup of tea. It was a real, and I almost got. I didn't think about it at the time, but because of the way you experience it as well, that it really does help the way you enjoy the books in the way you read them. Because sometimes when we're just swiping or we're just reading something and not really thinking about it, we're not really getting. It's not as personal. Like with movies. The cinema experience is so completely different. If you're sat down, the lights are off, you've got the big screen. It's it's completely different than watching it on your phone. It's the same with comics. It's the same. How you experience them definitely affects the way you take them in. I think. So there was that experience of Black Science, but just from a nostalgia, I don't read them like this anymore. I can't anymore. But I just remember when I was a kid. And I had like lots of these issues and stuff, and just lying on the bed, in that sort of classic. If you were to get a stock image of a kid in their bedroom reading comics, it's always like they're laying on their front, legs kicked up, just sort of reading comics. I can't do that now because my spine just won't let it. If I try doing it and I try standing up afterwards, I'm fucked for a week. But I just really remember like. I'd put the radio on, I'd put some music on, and then I'd just be for a couple of hours just reading comics. Just absolutely. And I'd just be like, right, next one, bam, next one. And it was such a wonderful experience, that for me. Those are the two sort of I think it's interesting how it's changed. But it's always been me, on my own, tucked away somewhere, enjoying what I'm going to read.
Yeah, no, I almost like to go somewhere to have that big experience reading a comic. Because you read them at home, it's fair enough, but people might bother you, and the phone will go, and the door will go, and there'll be a delivery, and the dog will bark. But if I'm sitting somewhere having a coffee, that's why I quite like going to the coffee shop every morning, having a coffee and reading a comic,
Yeah.
If I check out one that Dan got me onto, and I think it, and now I've kind of adopted myself because I think it really works, is his whole Christmas Eve comic reading. So he's mentioned it time, and like I do it myself now, and I kind of beginning of December kicks off, and I'm thinking, what am I going to read for Christmas Eve? And maybe I'll put one aside and be like, this is the one that's going to be the Christmas Eve comic, and I'll order it in for myself, or whatever. I'll have one that I haven't read.
It's a lovely little.
Oh, it is a lovely little ritual because you get first December, you think like, which one is it going to be? It's going to be this one. You kind of get yourself all excited about it. Maybe I'm going to put it in the calendar so I know that's the point that I can put aside that time to be like, this is the time I'm going to read it at. And it's lovely. It's genuine, and it's also because like Christmas is generally a pretty manic time. Regardless of what's even if it's the case, even if you're not doing cooking, you're just traveling to people. It's still a full-on time.
Yeah.
And to have that said, like actually for this hour and a half, even 2 hours if I'm lucky, where I'm going to read and have like a glass of whiskey and just read. Jack Kirby's what was the one he did about? What was this year's? It was I don't want to say Lost Boys. It was the one about the kids. I have to look it up now.
Newsboy Legion, or
Newsboy Legion. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. And just to go through it and just like, it was a real fun time.
I mean, I think a lot of us now, and certainly many probably listeners as well, will do their reading on commutes. And certainly we all have. If we've been on a plane, train, automobile, those times I've been at comic marts. I bought a lot of stuff, and I'm on the bus going home. The old cheap bus going home.
Isn't it a shame when you've read them all by the time you get home?
Oh yeah. But at the same time, it was joyous reading them while you were doing it. But and that's great that we can do that. But it's not the same experience, is it? The travel read is a very different experience, isn't it? I don't think anyone. I mean, I could be wrong, listeners. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone will point out that my favourite time to read comics is when I'm travelling. Or do you think possibly?
Long train journeys I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoy that. I had a little period where I used to have to go up and down to Newcastle every couple of weeks, and you could fit in a good few comics on the train there. I quite like that.
Yeah. The issue is though, it's like you're in a public setting, aren't you? Less of a personal. I mean, you get your own carriage to yourself, though, Tony, don't you?
Well, I always travel first class, you know.
Always. Yeah, but I'd be interested to see what are your little routines, listeners, to read comics. You know, because it is a little pilgrimage, isn't it, that we do.
To bring the tone up again, this is a bit like the sort of comics equivalent of best place you've ever had a wank.
My perfect Sunday.
Yeah. It is very. I mean, jokes aside, though, I think these sort of things we must never lose touch with. Thinking about that, you know, I mean, we can be so critical or cynical about comics or this, that, and the other. Never forget those times when you got into comics and you didn't have to think about paying tax. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We read quite a lot to talk about them as well, don't we? So when we're reading them, so just to have that benefit of that's why I love to have a reading project.
Yeah.
On the go.
I think there is a difference between because whenever I come on the show, what I read I take in more detail. Like I don't make notes. I make notes when I'm reading something for the show, be that a reading challenge or be that a
when you came on Never on Anything, we talked about a fat comic, a manga, didn't we, for fucking about an hour and a half? Yeah. So we had to have plenty of notes.
You got to have notes. But if I'm reading for my own benefits, like I read what was an Apollo song? It was MX from Tezuka as well.
Okay.
And if I'd been reading it for NI, I would have read it very differently from how I read it just for myself.
Yeah.
Because there's reading and there's active reading, and having that time of time and the space to do that.
Remembering names of characters is something I'm fucking terrible at doing when I read a normal comic.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm the same with novels. I'm like, who's Brian again? To go back and look at it, you know.
Yeah.
There is an element of even how you're reading could be affected by the space you're doing in as well.
Yeah. But whatever you're reading and whenever you're reading it, we hope you're enjoying it. You know. So, and telling other people about it, and tell us about it if you read something really good that we should be reading, because there's more content for the show that we don't have to worry about. Anyway, but
use the C word.
I'm always on the game. Not on the game. Well,
with that sexy T-shirt, you're on the game.
Yeah, I've got my arms out today. I was doing
Hips
gardening.
and zips.
I was. Anyway, before this gets too personal, what am I talking about? This show's always personal to me. And we've got one more question, and it comes from a caller. Someone called into the show.
Ooh. Hey.
A voice that you may recognise. But this question, we're gonna finish off our discussion this week before getting on to some shout outs and recommends, etc. With this very thoughtful question. What say you, listener?
Hello, Awesome Comics Podcast. It's me, Danny B. Hello, Tony, Vince, and hopefully Tom. Here's my question to you. Are comics usually better when they're made by a team instead of just a lone creator? Like, would Spider-Man have been a great if it was only Ditko working on it? Would the X-Men have taken off the same way without Claremont? Having multiple people working on a comic, writers, artists, editors, etc., mean that each person can focus on what they're best at. Does the teamwork help a comic reach a level maybe a solo creator wouldn't be able to do on their own? I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
That was from Daniel Butcher, calling in. He's
roving reporter,
8 years old, from class 2B. Thanks for getting in touch, Daniel. What do you think? What do you think, guys? I think that's a great question.
It's a great question, and I think if anything, indie comics are the black sheep of that aspect, because like most comics are made by a team, right? And you think, and like the amount of Swamp Thing. Actually, no. Let's go to Watchmen. Because we all know the names of Watchmen. it's very easy just to focus on like the Alan Moore and fucking I've forgotten the name.
Dave Gibbons.
Thank you. Whenever I fall in the sand, you pick me up. Yeah, very easy to just think of the big. But there's loads of people involved. Like, from editors, from printers, from all. It's always a team effort, and no, I don't think anything work like. Very rarely are things better in isolation. Yes, it's good to have single vision dreams on stuff and like single voices, but that doesn't stop. I think it's always better to have another voice on there, and even if it's a case of here's a script, run it past Tony and say, hey, what am I missing here? Where can this be tightened up? Do you need those panels or whatever? I think that's and it's easy to get yourself stuck into a single mindset, and it's obviously with indie comics being one man and their dog effectively.
Yeah.
That's more. Go on, man. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think jumping on the back of that, Tom. I think even there's these creators, and I recommend a sort of almost a solo creator. If they start off on the indies doing everything themselves, they'll get to a point, and as their continue grows and rises, and they end up getting published through a bigger company, they're no longer the one man or one woman or whatever band.
I mean,
because there's other people in the step. And if anything, they're there to make it. In theory, they should be there to make it easier for the person just to create.
No, I mean, there's this great little comic called Vanguard, which has a.
Never heard of it.
No, never heard of it. But like Dan does 99% of that himself. But I think he's mentioned in the past that he has someone he sends a script off to.
Yeah, he's got like a proofreader, isn't he?
Yeah. He's got a proofreader. So there's still like even that, which is. Like, it's a really successful comic, it sells out really well, but it still has someone else in there to proofread the scripts.
Yeah. I think it's a very nuanced thing, isn't it? I think you can't say one thing over the other. I think some projects are massively suited to just that single voice. And I don't want to just say autobiocomics. I think there's a lot of other stuff that is suited to that single voice.
I think a lot of underground stuff certainly is a lot more solo people just playing their instrument however they want to play it without anyone's
the big example is Crumb working on his own and doing stuff compared to Crumb working with a writer, which he has done. But I think it's a massively thing. I think the intention of the writer, because often he may be the inception point for a comic, changes when you get the artist on board, but sometimes you don't want that change if you were just the artist writer. I think some comics deserve a lot of research. Kent State, for example. Would that have been the same if it was a writer telling an artist what to draw? When you've got the artist, it's an artist writer so invested in getting a truthful recreation of it. For example, my friend is Dharma. What's it? My best friend Dharma, whatever it's called. The Durf book. Like that, I think that would have been a whole different game if it had come from a couple of creators. But then again, the combination of some writers who can't draw assists the artists who are supremely competent in changing and making something combining to be better. And I think the example of that for me would be Claremont, Byrne and Austin on Uncanny X-Men. I think it just changes, doesn't it? From the inception point all the way through to the completion point. There's a different dynamic at each stage of that. And I think it affects what we read and what's on our shelves.
When it
could
comes
be very different otherwise.
Yeah, when it comes to like the bigger publishing things as well, or like all the way back through the ages and stuff. There were many times where people didn't come in as teams. Sometimes they're like, all right, you're a writer, you're going to be given.
Sometimes they've never met each other.
You're going to be given this artist for the next 2 years of your life. You're going to, that's the way it was, isn't it? And of course, the relationships were then built up or smashed, or however it went. But so many times in like the bigger publishing world, it was, it was more the workhorse. That person's doing that role. That person's doing that role. I think over time, as collaboration within comics has maybe changed and evolved, and people have gone on to do other things. Like, how many times have we had writers and artists join up on something for a bigger publisher, get on well, move on, and all of a sudden they've got an original creation somewhere.
Oh, Declan Shelby, Warren Ellis, which I mentioned earlier. They joined on Moon Knight, and then they went off and did Injection at Image. Yeah.
How did Brubaker and Phillips, did they? Is that how they how did they get together? I'm not
sure about that. Don't know.
No, but that is. I mean, if that was the case, that turned into a concrete fucking lifetime work.
And I know he's an inker, but Sinnott famously didn't meet Kirby for the whole time he was inking Fantastic Four.
Yeah. You know, whereas now
you can tell on some occasions.
But yeah, it's I think that back to Dan's question, the sort of it seems like seems to be talking more about like the mainstream sort of like bigger comics. You know, do you think that this book would have been better? I mean, we're talking about impossibles here, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about things that would never happen. But for instance, a Fantastic Four that was only Jack Kirby, what would that have been like, Tony?
Yeah, well, very similar to what it ended up at, but yeah, not as good.
Yeah.
I accept that Stan didn't play as big a part as perhaps he said he did, but I think he did play a part in it.
Yeah.
I think the best example of this is one we talked about maybe a year ago, is Nexus. So you've got Mike Barron and Steve Rudd start Nexus together. They do Nexus, and it's fucking, honestly, never mind anyone's fucking political opinions, it's still one of the best comics out there. And then recently they've decided, they're still friends, but they've decided that they'll go off and do a version of Nexus each. And one isn't written as well, and one isn't drawn as well. And they're not as good. And I just want them to get back together again and make classic Nexus again.
Can I go back to Kirby for a second there? Because you mentioned obviously Kirby and Stan Lee working on Fantastic Four, and we kind of saw what Kirby does when he was let off the reins.
Yeah,
it's New Gods.
Yeah, I don't think some of the experiments he did at DC were perhaps as mainstream financially successful as some of the stuff he did at Marvel. Yeah, although I find it incredible.
I really enjoyed New Gods. It was kind of an introduction to Kirby, and I was like, this is fun, bombastic comics.
Yeah,
where everyone has a very similar face, but it's part of the charm. But you do see the effect of like even if it's just guiding the ship every now and again on Fantastic Four, because like there's no this man, this monster in New Gods. There's some great storylines in there, but there's nothing of that kind of hard-hitting, bit more human storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, I see Fantastic Four almost as one of the high points of comics. In my Marvel, I think that run, you know, with the Inhumans and Doom and Silver Surfer,
it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't, as much as I love stuff like the New Gods, and even if you go through to the Eternals and Machine Man and 2001, it's not as coherent.
Even his sorry, turning to Kirby chat now, but even his horror stuff he did with who did his horror stuff with? God, I should know this. I want to say was it Joe Simon? Kirby horror
could be, yeah.
Or comics. I'll just check for a second. It's Simon. Even that's got a very different theme on it. You can tell that the Simon's hands in there, sort of influencing Kirby and sort of keeping him.
That Simon and Kirby stuff is so different. I think look at something. Well, he had a long career, but to when you look at maybe Superpowers towards the end there, or Silver Star or something. Yeah.
Silver Star is wild, frankly.
I've got a lovely hardback of it, but I'm not sure what's going on.
I've got the same. I think I've got exactly the same one.
But it's interesting when you talk about like the bigger industry as well, isn't it? With some of these artists, I mean, we talk about independent small press comics when there's so many sort of one-person orchestras just doing it all, or just printing themselves, or just doing everything. And there are certainly, I think, because of the rise of independent creators in some ways, we're seeing some bigger names doing that now. They've come up through the ranks of being able to do that themselves, and therefore gaining in confidence, and having the failures that they've been doing this themselves. So it hasn't. But it's certainly interesting, and we've mentioned it before. When you get to certain professional levels and industry levels, there are some brilliant artists who just cannot write. They just can't. They just can't. And they could be absolutely fucking astonishing artists, but when they've done it themselves, it's clunky. It can be really a clunky read. But you pair them with the right writer, and it soars. Do you know what I mean? It really just is another. It's happened and it's probably the same. I mean, does it go the other way around? Can it go the other way around?
It's impossible to, unless you're a writer who can draw as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot can't they?
So so One Punch Man, as the artist, the writer of One Punch Man initially just drew it as a way to sort of practice using a bit of software, and it's effectively stick figures. And
You told me about this. I remember you saying,
it's effectively stick figures that he's kept on doing it because he enjoys doing it, and it has got better. But the guy can't draw, and that's perfectly okay because he's a very good writer.
Yeah.
And then someone else has come along and actually done like a more of a manga style artist on it, and it's incredible. But I think there is,
And
I think...
we'll take, for instance, sorry, jump in, Tom. Like,
no, please do.
And his art certainly worked for what it was. Bendis started off with Jinx. It's Jinx, wasn't it? That was his first one.
Same as Hickman started off drawing stuff, didn't he? And
drawing
designing stuff. Yeah.
But it's almost like they just it worked better.
Alan Moore started off drawing stuff.
Yeah.
Maxwell the Magic Cat and stuff like that.
But do you think sometimes when they've taken that step back and just been like, I'm going to let someone else take the reins with the art, it's freed them to just go for it?
Jeff Lemire's a good example of that. Yeah, he does still draw stuff for himself, but he writes stuff for other people as well.
It's very different. When he does stuff for himself, it's
almost like this is his indie movie, this is his mainstream movie. It's almost a bit like that, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for it.
I drew something for a tribute press release, and it didn't make the final cut. Which I keep reminding Falby about.
That's an outrage. That's an absolute
I think mostly just because he forgot about it. But
we need their contact email to complain about this. I think it's a tricky one because my heart sort of tells me that, especially when it comes to the bigger comics, you maybe need a team to do it, but that's probably because there's so many loopholes you got to fucking fly through.
But without a team, we wouldn't have had Cerebus or American Flag or
but that's also in the independents. Do you know what I mean? I know it became
Burns Fantastic Four. He
was
Frank Miller's Daredevil.
They were interesting. I mean, there were other people working within those comics that.
It's a industry,
But you're absolutely right. We remember those as Frank Miller's Daredevil, John Burns. It's interesting, isn't it? Like you don't
Jim
get
Starlin stuff.
You don't get many now, and I think actually probably I would say Daniel Warren Johnson is one of the only few names recently.
Who's the guy who does White Knight? The Batman White Knight series. He's
Sean Gordon Murphy. People like Sean Gordon Murphy and Daniel Warren Johnson are the only ones I can think of at the moment that do.
He's at MCM at the moment, isn't he? He did MCM.
He was.
He just did it. Stan Sakai.
Just to add a little,
Eric Larson.
Just to add one more ripple to this question before we get on with the rest of the show. Do you think there's many publishers who are willing to give it over to just one creator?
Well, I think we were bitten a bit hard around the Heroes Reborn, weren't we? I think that
really hurt. That probably hurt it for quite a bit of time, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
But I think there have been examples of it working at the big two. Some Frank Cho stuff. May not have been particularly a deep written book, but I think it was good. I think there's.
Got about Eric Larson, of course.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think there's some names that will if Magnolia wants to do something, I'm sure he'd be allowed to.
Magnolia.
I love him. Here's the thing. I absolutely love.
Well, he has done, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has absolutely. And the same with Stan Sakai as well. Like some big names that would be allowed almost, but if you came in as a fresh face, you're unlikely to probably be given that kind of.
Rob's doing it all the time. Rob does it quite a lot.
Yeah. Frank Cho's done a decent amount. I think.
Yeah, there's a few, and I from a buyer's point of view, it doesn't affect my. I'll buy a team book, a team of creators as I will a solo creator. I don't go, I only buy solo creators. I do both.
Yeah.
Just depends on the quality of it. Again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hopefully, if it's a team of creators on a big book, hopefully they're all getting paid a decent amount.
I think that's the main thing. It's everyone's credited, everyone's paid.
Yeah.
That's the big bits.
Yeah. And yeah, if you've got a big team on your little small press or independent book and you're paying lots of people, God fucking bless you. You know, it's a bit different if like, oh, I'm a writer and I'm working with this artist, so I'm paying them. But if you've got to pay lots of different people,
yeah,
it's a different
I've been there, man.
Yeah,
I've been there.
ball game. Yeah,
yeah,
and especially as we in this day and age with the Kickstarters, you're paying variant artists. You're probably paying about 10 fucking different variant artists for your covers and all of that.
I've never made money out of Kickstarter. I'm always in the red on a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
The money goes to the artist and the letterer, but I'm not making any money if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't make money on the show because it's free every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we'll call it there. We'll call time on it there. Dan, please tell us what you think about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll probably.
I think there's a similar conversation going on between Rob and Mark Millar on Twitter. We had a conversation with Dan about it as well, slightly different, but go and have a read of that as well. I think they're naming people they think are solo, good teams.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, in my opinion, the best solo ones that can keep doing it now, they've got to leave their ego at the door to continue being offered that. I think probably a couple of decades ago, there was a lot of ego leading a lot of stuff. And they could get away with a lot. But I think in modern publishing terms, just across the board, leave that ego at the door because...
Yeah, I think the days of Oasis demanding a chocolate brown Bentley when they signed for a label, and the equivalent in comics is long gone.
Yeah. Yeah. But there you go. And it feels like we're just having a discussion down the pub or the coffee shop, whatever your beverage of choice is. But let's go on with the rest of the show. So then, do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
As always, I've got a few. So I've got to do this last week. Big shout out to my buddy Hal Weaver.
Hey.
When I got back from holiday, me and him went for a curry, or as I now make him say, Ruby Murray, because he's American. And watch out for some more of his comics. I'm always a fan of his stuff. And he's just been in a movie, believe it or not. This is the circles we run in, my friends.
Oh yeah.
He's just been in a movie with Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart directed it, called The Chronology of Water, that's just been a big hit at Cannes. It was one of those ones that had like a 18-minute applause or standing ovation, one of those sort of things. And he's in it. He's got a speaking part in it. He fucking makes me laugh. Yeah, he texts me saying, "No, it hasn't been cut out. It's in it." Oh yeah. I'm like, yes. Well, now I'm going to watch it.
Nice.
Yeah. He also, because he lives in Riga now, and he was also telling me about how he was wandering around. And I was telling him the story about how me and Falpy found a machine in a garage that makes hot dogs. It's like a hot dog making machine. That was the sort of jumping off point for a big story that we've got coming up. And he said, there's a pizza machine in Riga in the street. And you program in it and you press what things you want on it. And this pizza comes sliding out, steaming hot. And it's called, he says, because they name things, weird things out there, because it's the English translation, you know. And it's called Let's Pizza. Fancy a pizza? Let's pizza. And you put your money in, put your notes in.
Yeah. I imagine that is as deliciously reheated as you imagine it would be.
It's going to be great, isn't it? Yeah. Big shout out to Eamonn. He got me something last week, as we speak, as you listen. But yeah, brilliant. I'll send it to you guys. I'll send it to you in a minute, Tom. I think I'll send it to you earlier. But thanks to Sam Hardacre, who sent me his zine, Sketches Issue 1. He sent it to Barry Cheeseman's Backdoor Booty Emporium. That was the name on which made me laugh.
He's got your home address then?
Yeah. Well, everyone knows that. You don't even need to put a postcode on it. Everyone knows. Yeah. I think that may be all I have. You go next, and I'll... Oh no, Macc Powell. The Macclesfield Comic Festival is coming your way on June 28th in Macclesfield Town Hall. Free entry 10 to 4. Free issues of the Beano for kids who go there. Go and see Sam Hardacre, I've just mentioned, Lloyd Mills, and Ellis Best in the Dab Hand Comics table. Go and do that one. Blags Big Boy's Big Big Book of Bollocks is now funding on Kickstarter. Dude's a Slack member, so Richard Starzecki, go and have a look at that. It follows the unadventures of Elbow and Blood, hapless radiation sniffers. And also just nearing its finish point is Romo, the Wolf Boy from UK Comics legend and cartoonist Ilya. Go and back that as well. There you go, they're mine.
Nice. Tom, have you got anything?
I've mentioned Lawless 2026. I'm all good, thank you.
Nice. So, without further ado, let's recommend some comics. Tony, now, I know you got a couple of honourable mentions as well, but you got a few this week, haven't you?
Yeah,
So
if you don't mind.
Kick us off.
We've got one that we're going to join in. You two are going to join in.
Yes.
I'll save that till last, I think.
Yeah.
First one is, gentlemen, sometimes you want sometimes you might want a cosmic Kirby comic, mightn't you? That might be in your taste buds for the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want a superhero soap opera. That might be what you need.
Of course, yeah.
Or sometimes you just might want a master of combat and arms and just swearing so much, fucking up people. And that's what I got through the post from, and I can talk about it because he's away this week. He did one of the covers, is The Drycleaner by To Be Honest Comics. Story and art by Kieron Squires, and a variant cover by our boy Danny Boy Bitcher, who's on Hollybobs. It does... It's just a fun read, this. So I believe there are two levels you can read this on. Now, Kieron, make me right on this. I believe there's you can read this and just watch fun art, fun black and white, beat 'em up artwork, or you can see the little pokes he gives to the genre. Because I know that Kieron is, and I know that Dan is especially as well, and all these boys at TBH Comics, this stuff amuses us. Every time, it's like the way that Dan replies to everything you send him with an Arnie or a Van Damme gif. Mm-hmm. It's similar to this. You know what they're doing around this. And it starts off with the Drycleaner. It does that Tarantino, well, I suppose we call it Tarantino-esque now. I'm sure he got it from somewhere else. But that thing where you start at the almost end. So you got the Drycleaner standing there. There's a chopper over his head. There's men standing opposite with M16s. He looks a little broken, but he's ready for the fight. And then it rewinds back to the start, which I kind of think, we talked a little bit recently about dropping into the action straight away and not taking ages to get to it. And I think that gets round that sometimes when you've got to introduce a character first. But giving that one-page teaser, I think, is a good way of doing it. And he does it here. And so we go back to New York. A bald-headed, lean geezer opens the dry cleaners and starts ironing trousers.
That just made me laugh. I don't know.
Yeah. Very sort of, he's got a real way of doing it. He's laying them out, and he's very precise. Gave me a bit of like that sort of the way that everyone in Japan does things properly. You know what I mean? They do. They're going to make a cup of tea. They're going to make a fucking cup of tea, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? If you're going to iron trousers, it's got to be a crisp line and that sort of thing. Maybe it's a bit military. I don't know. Maybe. And then the cleaner comes in, who's this lady, and she doesn't speak English. And later on, we find out that she just sort of started turning up and cleaning. He didn't ask her to, and he sort of chats to her. And then, of course, you get the tropedy trope of. We'll talk about tropes later in the one we're going to talk about as well. But you got the tropedy trope of the mafia come in demanding they're paid for their sort of protection racket. And he's not having any. It smashes one of their faces in, and then we're off and running. And then it's literally by at one point it's like crowds of men fighting him on a rooftop, and helicopters and ninjas turning up, and just goes fucking full pelt. The dialogue is hilarious. There's more swear words than there are other words in some panels. One, you dumb fucking cock shit motherfucker. And he replies, fuck you, Tony, you fat fuck. And that's kind of where the dialogue goes. I think that's, although to be fair, pretty realistic. You should hear us talk like a bunch of sailors on shore leave. Bad guys are unrepentingly bad. The good guy fucks them up. Sometimes that's all I want. Go to all in capitals on Twitter /X TBH Comics. On Instagram, you can go to TBH_comics and find them. I backed it, so I'm suspecting it's going to be. It's only just arrived, and I saw a couple of the other guys, Zach Cahill and a couple of others, got it through from backing it on the Kickstarter too on the Slack. So I suspect it's going to be going on sale otherwise. The cover, there's a couple of covers. I got the what's that a pastiche on?
The Transporter.
The Transporter. Yeah.
Dan's cover is a sort of pastiche on the Transporter, and thank you guys because they've included a little advert for us in the back inside back cover. It's very nice.
Lovely.
Yeah. There you go. That's my first one, the Drycleaner. And I love under the logo though. I don't know if you can see that. He's put the little symbols
Oh,
you
he's
get
put
for
the washing. Yeah, that's brilliant.
like don't iron, certain temperature for washing it,
Yeah,
that sort of
nice.
thing. Yeah, which is cool. So
Very nice.
not to be completely taken seriously, but if you want to just read it just for action, it's a fucking cracking read as well. There you go.
Nice.
Lovely.
Tom, what have you got?
Yes, I have a manga from an artist I've not reviewed on it here before. Yoshihiro Tatsumi, and it's Goodbye. So I'll see you all later on. No. So when we think of Japan, a lot of times we see the stylized popcorn, bubblegum style lifestyle in terms of everything's all clean, put together. Everyone's having a lovely time, and it looks friendly and happy and that kind of jazz. And what this is a collection of 9 stories that were published in a drawn and quarterly between 1971 and 1972, and it's miserable as all hell. It is people living miserable lives in Japan, and how
I rate this series, man. This is the 3rd volume, is that right? Did you say?
I don't know if it's the 3rd volume. I know it's a collection of 9 of them. I'm not sure I don't know about if it is a 3rd volume. It doesn't say on the side. Put it that way.
Right. I think
Could be wrong.
yeah. I'll try and find mine later when we finish recording. But
Yeah.
I love this. It's almost like the most depressing period of Japanese history, isn't it? It's just oh my god. Yeah.
There's so many stories about like what the one that immediately came to mind that sort of like sold me on it as a thing to like carry on reading was a salaryman is getting to retirement but realizes he's gonna have to spend all his time with his wife, and he decides to have he's got this money put aside, he's gonna have one final affair so that he knows if he has that he can now live with his wife for the rest of his time, his horrible wife for the rest of the time. And it just feels real. Like they're fantastical stories, but they feel grounded in like a gritty reality of day-to-day living that we don't see a lot in comics generally. That kind of like grimy.
Some of it focuses on the period post American occupation.
It does, yeah. And the first story focuses on like post Hiroshima.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's right, yeah. Just seeing something that's that nihilistic and that grimy in quite a almost Disneyfied manga style. It's really incredible. Great cartooning, and I picked this up in a charity shop when I was with my aunt and uncle-in-law. And as it's not hard to flip to a page and see something a little bit spicy, so I had to kind of like very carefully. Oh, this looks interesting, and then sort of like skip over pages where there's a boob or a...
massively fascinated by that period of manga history, man.
Yes, yeah.
There's so much that's coming out from that period, and it's so bleak.
And I think it's just good to have that contrast. It's good to have that contrast between like seeing stuff that is just just that portrayal of post-war Japan,
compared to the sort of bubblegum monster,
very much so.
robot stuff that we see as well.
Like, both are good. Both are good, and but it's almost a bit like
it's very undergroundy as well.
It's really undergroundy, and like again, it's just good storytelling, just really good storytelling, and I very easy to recommend. And really enjoyed it. Really easy read. Actually, no, not an easy read. It was easy to read.
Yeah,
it was hard work.
It's different from most mangas, people, because it's very much a short story collection, isn't it? Yeah. So it's not like 24 volumes or something. It's It's
really contained. I got a copy in charity shop for like a tenner, and it was lovely.
That's good going.
Well worth reading it. Really enjoyed it. It's going to stay on the shelf. So that's my recommend. Goodbye by Yoshihiro Tatsumi, and I'm going to be checking out more of his stuff as and when I can find it. Frankly,
good stuff, man.
Nice.
There you go. That's me.
My one this week comes with a few questions. Do you like bright colours? I'm asking you guys.
Oh, right.
And the listeners. Feel free to play along.
And I'm wearing like quite a bright t-shirt at the moment.
Do you like violence?
I love violence. Yeah.
I love an fighter.
Do you like cyborgs? Do you like ninjas?
Oh, I do.
They're sex cyborgs.
Do you like car chases?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like summer vibes?
Like VHS tapes.
Do you like Saturday morning cartoons like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Do you like... I've said violence, but there's going to be even more violence. Do you like potty mouths?
Definitely.
Do you like electro synthwave, which has been playing in my head as I read this comic? Do you like fucking awesome comics? Because I read Robo Wolf today, as we're recording, from Dark Horse Comics, and it was funny, we talk about the all-in-one creator because this is from written and illustrated by Jake Smith, who I didn't know Jake's work before this. He's at dead_gremlin_comics on Instagram. He hit the scene by his work on Godzilla War for Humanity, if anyone's seen that.
Okay.
And if you go to his Instagram, you see a lot of his pencil pages and stuff. Fucking unreal. He's immediately just... Never mind one to watch. I think he's... With this, also, he's exploding onto the scene. I think with the Godzilla comic, Godzilla is kind of an announcement comic for a lot of creators these days, isn't it? It's almost a chance to really shine, isn't it? But Dark Horse are putting out his series Robo Wolf. But what is it? Well, Robo Wolf and his crew of bank robbing criminals are in a race against time to get a fat stack of stolen money to the villainous Colonel Massacre, who has kidnapped Robo Wolf's daughter for ransom.
I'm calling my missus that now.
Yeah, the Colonel's not the only one with an eye on the money, however, and our heroes will have to use their combined skills to tear through an onslaught of bloodthirsty cannibals, ninjas, robots, and more. It's an over-the-top ode to classic retro beat-em-up video games. Check. 90s comic books. Check. And 80s action films. Check. Which means... I think this is a comic pretty much made for me and Dan.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, in fact, he's pre-ordered the physical, hasn't he?
He pre-ordered the physical, which I didn't know. I mean, this appeared on my radar when I thought, I've got to read something. Firstly, the credits with the team involved as well. Obviously, Jake Smith this is his show. Mike Richardson at Dark Horse, who I think he's been a killer publisher for fucking years now.
Long time, yeah.
Editor is Brett Israel. Assistant editor is Tara McCarran. Designer is Abby Joy Shaw. There's a digital art technician and a pre-press technician that also get digital art is AJ Newell and pre-press technician Jake Johnson.
I like to think they did like a VHS cover to this as a little. They did that with a few. Is it Firearm? They did back in Malibu. They did a VHS cover for it and stuff like that.
The cover design for this immediately has that sort of VHS sort of feel as well. It's almost got that sort of frame around it with the wonderful sort of retro Outrun video game sort of like text on it. And it's from the front cover you see Robo Wolf himself in like a pair of like flashy sort of, it's California type shades, bright and colourful. You see the rest of his team. There, one of the guys who has a skull for a head. He's sort of a punk rocker. He has a skull for a head, but not in the way that Ghost Rider has a skull for a head, and it's not a mask. You can see from the cover that he's actually had his head chopped off, and the skull is sort of floating. You can see like the bloody stump where his neck is, and he's smoking cigarettes. So it's a small team that he's got. This fucking blew me away. Immediately, the tone of voice is absolutely on point. It's funny and satirical all the way through. I mean, if you think, oh, this is a kid's comic, this is not a kid's comic. There is ultra-violence in this. It was an amazing... I knew it was going to happen, but it was an amazing scene. And spoilers if you haven't read this yet. Robo Wolf power bombs someone at one point so hard that their head just explodes because they hit the fucking pavement so hard. Every panel is just absolutely loaded with detail and joy. But the writing also, within the first few panels, made me laugh out loud. Robo Wolf and his team, they've just robbed a bank. They're on the run from the cops. And the cops are like chasing after them, an absolute sort of legion of cop cars. And as the cop cars are chasing them, it said, "We're closing in, Chief. We're going to ram them hard in their raw red asses." They say, metaphorically, right, Sergeant? Yes. And there's so many sort of witty one-liners. And then, if that wasn't enough, it cuts to these pages where it's got such a warm, when I say California VHS cover sort of palette, you know, the arcade machines, I just think, you know, when you think of classic arcade machines, the warms, oranges, the purples, the pinks, the colours in this are just absolutely stunning. And there's details. He's another creator where he can't just draw a straight. No, all of the buildings have boxes and have little signs, and you know there's little details everywhere to like people's like even like tattoos and just jackets. There's one guy that's just getting murdered at one point, and you see like a patch on the back of his jacket that just says "suck all our dick" before it it gets cut off. I just love those, and there's like designs on like the cans. It feels like these characters there should be a line of action figures going with them, like the Toxic Crusaders. I remember when
Biker Mice from Mars,
the Biker Mice from Mars,
Yeah,
Toxic Crusaders. You know, there should be an amazing line of figures, because he's got these characters. They're 4 characters of their own, which one of them is called. Obviously you've got Robo Wolf. Because there's a brilliant introduction as well, because after they've gotten away from the cops, the news are talking about it, which gives you a little bit of an exposition dump, but in a brilliant kind of 80s kind of vibe. Because as the news is being watched, it's almost like every member of the team has their own sort of arch nemesis who's watching at the time. So as they introduce each of the team, you see this person sort of like off camera, sort of going, "Oh, so you're still alive then?" You know, that kind of thing. And you know that these are characters that are just going to crop up. Mm-hmm. So you've got Robo Wolf, Robo Wolf's right hand, Suzuki Yatashi. She was a former member of the dreadful Bloodshed Renegades. So you all know just how vile and bloodthirsty this chick probably is. It's full of like language like that, you know, that sort of dialogue. The normal guy of the team, he's got the name Vince. So he's
nice.
He's
normal Vince.
Yeah,
normal Vince. Yeah.
He's called VCR.
The opposite of you.
Yeah. He's I'd say he's cooler than me. Well, yes, he is. Cause
he hasn't got a sleeveless t-shirt on. I bet good money.
No. But he probably didn't do any gardening either on this particular day. He's the bigger fool. No, but VCR is Vinnie Coulson Ryder, who the news are talking about. Going, he's the tech guy, and he could have had such a career going for him, but he's lumped himself together with these reprobates. And as we're doing all this, we're seeing villains, and there's another Lance. That's the figure with the skull. He's got an English accent, right? But as in like a Cockney, a right bruv kind of thing, and it rides that right line of, you know, when it's comedic, you know, almost like trauma, sort of like, okay, it's not someone trying to write something serious and getting the accent completely wrong. Because I presume Jake is an American creator.
Yeah, it's not Danny Dyer, quite Danny Dyer, is it?
Yeah.
Danny Dyer's bought a caravan site. Did you know that?
No.
Has he really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine Lance having Danny Dyer's voice if this was animated, which it should be. Because check out some of this dialogue. I'm not going to do it in Danny Dyer's accent. Blimey, look at all that scrumptious loot. Let's trot on down the pub, get shit-faced off a couple of pints, then score us a couple of quality slags and get our knobs polished.
You know, we were talking about getting together for the 10th anniversary.
And every time this happens, Robo Wolf's like, he's a hero. You know, he's clearly a hero character. Because after he says that, he goes, "Oh, Lance, you're such a joker. It sounds like you want to use the money we just stole on prostitutes." And he goes, "What a gag." Yeah, mate, I'm just having a laugh.
See, that belays the appearance of it. I would never have thought that had been in it from the cover, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because the cover's got, you know, it's almost, it feels more Saturday morning kids cartoon than it is. But, you know, there is violence, there is grown-up humour. There is one of the villain characters who I'm not going to spoil, Dan Butcher, I think, designed. But so much happened. I mean, this was it's a 29-page issue. I will say I bought it digitally, and price I think on shelves for the issue normally is $4.99. The digital
$4.99.
Yeah, $4.99. The digital issue for me was £3.69. And people know I love to whinge about a price. That is not a. That's too much for a digital issue. I mean, I honestly think I got my value for money. I'm so glad I bought it. Do you know what I mean?
£3.30 for a physical copy from Food Planet.
Exactly, and that's where the those sort of relationships.
Madness.
Yeah. This is one where I will be getting the physicals of this. I need to go back. And when I was looking, because I thought it might be just 2 issues, 2 or 3 issues, but I think there's a couple more in the can as well coming. So this I'm hooked into the veins. This completely converted me on like the first one. There's so much happens in this first issue. There are designs that are straight out of like games like Final Fight and Street Fighter, and like if you love those sort of video, if you spent many a 10p, 20p, 50p down the arcade, if you like things like Kung Fury, this is that. Do you know what I mean?
New York Ninja, there's a bit of that somehow for me. Yeah.
This is like Troma made a film, but had hundreds of millions. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. Or
Troma's come up quite a few times recently, isn't it? We had Toxic Avenger a couple of weeks ago. They're back now, aren't they, with a big comic line coming?
Are they really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, with Ahoy Comics,
There is a great cliffhanger at the end where Robo Wolf meets an old friend who maybe isn't a friend anymore. And I
Probably
was
a
like,
woman, then.
I was like, immediately put this into my eyes. Jake Smith, I am now a massive fan. I'm going to try and hunt him down and see if I can get him on the show because because I think if you go to his Instagram page as well, if you do, like where sketches, do you know what I mean? Like actual, it doesn't seem to be all digital, and he's just did loads of like.
Oh, that's good.
It feels as well like he's a young creator, but I think one of the things that appeals to me as well, there's something like this sort of Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Balls kind of that skateboard artwork sort of feel to some of this art.
Yeah,
I think, which really appeals to me. It's got a real sort of punk rock nature to it, which just gives it energy, absolute energy, and like it was a real sort of like shot in the arm. I was like, wow, this is it is sugar, it is caffeine, it is ultra violence. Bring me the next issue. So it's been real nice over the past couple of weeks just to discover some series that I am all in on. What with this and Battle Beast, it's like fucking. I got something for anthropomorphic creatures just murdering lots of people. Which
Battle
is,
Beast 2, man. Fuck yes.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I cannot.
Are you read the first one, Tom?
No, do you know what? I a couple of weeks back when you talked about it, I was really. I thought that sounds great. I need to get into it, and put it on my list. I'll go for it this week.
Yeah, I think you like it. Yeah. Plus Invincible Universe, so.
It's easy, right?
Yeah. So that's my one. I could talk about it for ages. I'm probably going to talk to Dan Butcher quite a bit about it. But Robo Wolf, lots of people seemingly knew about it before me, but you never know.
Only from previews.
Yeah.
Only from previews. That's the only place I saw it.
But you never know when it's going to. It is a mini series. It's not an ongoing. I think. It's a dark.
Oh God, he killed himself if that was an ongoing, didn't he?
Yeah. But looking forward to more. Tony.
So 2 quick hits. So both in the fucking crazy comics for the next corner. So we got first one. This doubles a bit as a tribute update for the Kickstarter. But if you'll have got your emails today, Electric Chair 3. We've got back from the printer now. I got my copy yesterday. As I said before, I think it's Adam's best issue of this so far. He introduces the comic as in his typical Adam style, and then you get a man hitchhikes to a very strange town. Do you know what? Because I know him so well, I'm always trying to spot if it's something we've done. Because we do go on quite a lot of road trips and see fucking weird things, as I repeated to you unrepeatably earlier. The one bloke calls another bloke, "All right, Chief." I thought, you definitely got that from me, because I call everyone Chief, don't I? Or babes. So the comic dealers are back. That's good as well. We love those characters. And a man hallucinates after drinking blue ink whilst being interviewed by the police over a murder. That one goes there. Fucking hell. That would make some manga creators blush. I think that one. Yeah. But it's really good. It's coming your way soon. So thank you everyone who backed it. And then a short period after we send it out, we've got a date now in 2 weeks to back and board and envelope everything and send it out. The other one is Phalactus, Lover of Worlds.
I absolutely love the sound of this. I cannot wait to hear more.
How are we spelling Phalactus?
Phalactus.
Fantastic.
Obviously, absolutely nothing to do with Galactus. Yeah,
I
clear.
never thought that once, because Galactus eats planets, doesn't he? What does Phalactus do?
He bones planets. So he full on does them from behind.
Oh, what?
Okay.
So he puts.
How can you do a planet from
puzzles
behind?
in there.
Sorry,
let's break this
the
down.
dark side. Maybe it's the dark side.
yeah,
Nighttime. Nighttime. They call it the dark side. I did him in the dark side.
I remember events that, like, the world isn't round. It's got like little flat bits at the top and bottom.
Yeah.
That's true.
Here we go. Flat Earth theory, curries.
Okay,
And here we
okay.
go.
Yeah. It's got the ice wall, of course, and then there's an underside.
Oh, I see. I see.
Really just scoop in from the bottom, and you're
Oh my god.
Yeah. He does enjoy scooping him from
like
the
a
bottom,
galactic
especially
reach
when he's
around.
gardening at lunchtime.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
So this is from the Twisted Halls of Black Ink Comics. I seem to be giving them a shout every week, but they seem to put comics out every week. By the way, I got to apologise because in Dan Hughes' comic from a couple of weeks ago, I mistakenly said it was the bloke from Secret Identity Comics. Turns out it's not. He did look like him. Turns out he's not him. So I got sent. Have a look on our DMs. Is it?
Yeah,
I got sent a picture of them looking at each other with the "We've got beef now," and so which I returned the message saying, "I'm sorry, but that I do find that slightly arousing."
Yeah. God bless Andy at Secret Identity. He just does
Yeah.
great work. Go to see that shop if you haven't already.
So this is 100% nothing to do with Galactus or anything to do with Lee and Kirby, just so we're clean. But it's well worth your time. It's actually on Global Comics. I read it. There you go. Little shout out for Global Comics. And the final one I know, which is one that we've all read. So we're all gonna have a three-way on this one in a second. So whatever happened to the Crimson Justice Mad Cave Studios? Look at me giving them Mad Cave, although I do read them quite not as much as Vince. Writer Frank Thierry, who I'm a massive fan of. Frank, if you're listening to this, we'd like you to come on the podcast. There you go. How's that? That's the invite.
Yeah.
Artist Inaki Miranda, colours Eva de la Cruz, letters Dave Sharp. Some nice variants by Dan Panosian and Joe Quesada. Get this, Joe Quesada's doing a lot of covers at the moment, isn't he? Getting his finger out. Edited by James B. Emmett and Michael Raked.
This all over is a like shout out to the whole team.
Nice little team.
This
Nice
whole
little team, know what they're doing. Yeah. I'm going to say that this shows that you can revisit a story type, and if you do it well and add a few flourishes, it makes it a really enjoyable read.
Yes.
So in general terms, this is a world without heroes. It's gone a bit out of control, and there's this lovely opening. I'm going to spoil the opening because it's a little bit of a bait and switch. So you've got the Commissioner Gordon character standing on the roof with the equivalent of the back signal, but it's the Crimson Justice.
It doesn't. It wears the cliches
massively.
The influences on its sleeve.
Shamelessly.
It says straight away, this is a Batman archetype.
Yes.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Which is why I say that it's just
Yeah, but it's done.
He's standing there, and you're expecting. He's getting nowhere. This character, Crimson Justice, has disappeared. No one knows where he's gone. But every night he goes onto the roof and he shines this in the light in the sky, hoping that he might help with the city, which is going to shit. And out of the shadows comes someone who slashes his throat and kills him, which I think is a lovely distortion. A change in that way that the dynamic between Batman and Commissioner Gordon even looks like him. And then you switch to this the street in this city, and there's two blokes standing outside of this coffee shop, pancake house, whatever you want to call it, and one of them is a guy called John Redding, and he owns the shop. And as soon as you see this grey-haired fucking don't take any shit from fucking, but he's a chef, sort of coffee shop owner, and as soon as you see him you think that's the Crimson Justice,
Exactly.
Yeah, and it does a lot of that through it.
He's got arms like fucking like tree trunks, hasn't he?
Yeah. And it does a lot of that. It plays on our preconceptions because it allows us to do it because it's sitting us in this sort of trope that we're aware of. But it allows us to prejudge and work out what's going on through that, and then confuse us a little bit by changing it a little bit here and then. And he's chatting to this mate of his, this sort of ponytailed dude. And they're saying that the city's gone to shit, and there's like a bloke drug dealing, isn't there? And there's a sort of prostitute standing there and that sort of thing. At the same time, there's a limo, and in the back of the limo is this mafia boss, and he's getting a hand job off this sort of dead-eyed blonde girl, attractive blonde woman, and he's really into domination of superhero types. Is that what we're saying there with that hand job?
I think it's a villain kink, right?
Yeah. So they go to this coffee shop, and they come in, and immediately John recognises what's going on.
He's got 11 nose on him as well.
He has, hasn't he? Yeah, quite a beak, isn't he? Yeah. And and I'm not going to spoil anything more after that. I think we should be careful
Yeah.
about spoiling it.
So
Go
there's obviously a big Batman feel about this.
Yeah.
There's also a little, and I'm going to try and phrase this carefully. I felt a little bit of Watchmen in there as well.
Massively.
In the sense of, and I'm going to just stop there because I don't think I need to say anything more. But I think there is an element of Watchmen in there as well in terms of when it's set.
Yeah, there's a bit of Night Owl, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of when you first read Watchmen, working out who the members of the team are.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of that in terms of what you're introduced to, and even in issue 1.
Yeah, it leaves you to guess who she is.
Yes. Yeah, and you could kind of see this comic wears its influence very clearly on its sleeve. It clearly loves what it's doing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it feels like a tribute to it rather than a pastiche of it.
Mm.
And I'm not quite sure why this one I'm giving a pass rather other things that it could be doing.
Yeah, I think it's just in the craft, and I think because I'm expecting it's a first issue. Yeah. There's as much in this first issue that you might see in the first 3 issues of other comics. Yeah. I think, and I think maybe I suspect a lot more is going to happen in the next 4 or 5 issues, because I think they're set up so much, and at the end of it, they've kind of changed your view a little bit on what's happening. That can only continue. Yeah, is my sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think there's. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I just think there is a. If you read it all out without any of the context, but like what happens in the story, without any context, without any description of like the work that's clearly gone into this, you'd think this is just a very much a by the numbers copy of what better stories.
Yeah.
But it's not the case at all.
It grabbed me emotionally, I think, as well, because there's a moment where the girl gets quite badly treated in the pancake shop, and he sort of steps in, and it sort of he doesn't quite get done what you think he wants to get. He wants to protect her, but she's kind of taken away, and it doesn't work out that way. And I was so invested in beat them up, kick the shit out.
Yeah.
I really wanted to kick the shit out of them,
But it is, it plays on that the classic trope that we love of the old badass. You know the person.
The wilderness years thing.
Yeah. But it handles it in a really, it's a hyper realistic world. But just the dialogue and like the way the main figure of this, who is the Batman, the retired Batman, is almost the most realistic and normal person.
Yeah.
Of the whole thing. And the way it all plays out, and I think like the facial acting and the way that everything's is paced out is pretty perfect for this sort of thing. We've seen lots of deconstruct. I hate that word now, deconstructions. But these plays on these tropes. We've certainly, especially in the Indian small press scene, so many different takes on especially this character. So you would think that almost we're ready to go at it and go, oh, well, they missed that one.
Oh, I went into it quite cynically.
Yeah,
I think I went into it because Thierry wrote it. I'm a fan of his sort of, and I think he's one of the best people for street level crime and stuff. At the moment in comics, he seems so ignored, but he should be doing some mainstream books.
I mean, these sort of books as well. I don't know what the plans are for something like this, but I don't need there to be spin-offs and lots of the universe to be reintroduced and stuff. I just need a good. I mean, tell a longer story if you've got to tell a longer story, but also after this, I want to see some ass kicking. Like in the great tradition of like, you never should have fucked with that guy. You just wanted to be left alone. I want it to actually be that. I don't
want any more. I just want the series. I don't want any more series. It's a bit like King of Spies. I was disappointed when he said there was a second series coming.
Yeah. It's like even in the way that like the Crimson Cloak. It's Crimson Cloak, isn't it? Is that his name?
Crimson
Justice. Sorry.
Crimson Justice. Yeah.
Yes.
He's even got a catchphrase: "Justice runs red." Do you know what I mean? Which they make
a little bit Moonlight, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. And his design is very Moon Knight-ish, should we say?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
But mixed with some pulp heroes and some Batman.
It's on the cover. Yeah, it's on the cover.
And it's all there. It's just a really good start for a story. So I really hope this continues.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some things. I have a theory on the killer, which I will talk to you guys.
Oh, do you think
off
it's the
air.
sidekick?
I will talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you think it's somebody we've already seen?
I will say nothing now.
Okay.
I will say it to you off air.
Right, okay.
Cool. Okay.
But that's also an interesting thing. Like I want the mystery to deliver.
Yeah, the thing is, well, to me, it's not Pinter, is it? It's not.
No.
You know, it's just good comics. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say it's like this philosophical debate on the fucking meaning of superheroes. It's just a good comic.
No, it's just good. Yeah.
And the question, I mean, the important thing is the question is the title. It should be, well, why did he walk away? Or why did this happen?
Yeah.
And there's hints to, like, you know, because there was a fire. There's no spoilers there. They talk a little bit about it, and after they thought he was just gone. He's dead.
So you know, does anyone else remember Powers?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
those
Powers.
like those first few issues of Powers, where like it was very clear that he'd walked away from that life.
Yeah.
And then the discovery of how he got to that point was kind of part of the joy of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost lost it for me when he went back into it and he
Yes,
got a
very
power.
much so.
didn't he?
Yeah. No, there was a real great first arc in that book.
Yeah.
Was it Who Killed? Not Hit Girl. Who Killed?
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember now.
Yeah, but that first arc was brilliant. And
I
it
watched the TV series of that.
Oof.
Oh my god.
Oofa
Yeah.
Oof.
They made it twice, didn't they? They made 2 pilots of it. I've never seen the first
Yeah.
pilot. Yeah, it's got that. Is it Punch? What's her name? That fucking...
Yeah, Lucy Punch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's in it originally. Yeah.
But yeah, no, great easy recommend.
Yeah.
In terms of like, good to check.
I'm
out.
looking forward. And also with Mad Cave, they're on time with their publishing. They know what they're doing.
And we get them day date on Global Comics.
Yeah.
And we don't have to pay for them on Global Comics, which is a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So loads of great recommendations there. I think a strong section of recommendations and a strong show because we brought the testosterone with Tom Curry. Thank you for joining us as always, Tom.
We've had him for ages. It's gone dark outside.
And thank you for joining us, listeners. This has been a fun one. Let us know what you think of everything we discussed in this show, and if you're a creator yourself and you've got something upcoming, or you know you want any advice, or there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at awesomecomicspod on Insta, at the awesomepod on X. You can listen to us on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com, which you may have done, or maybe you listened on Apple and left a nice review, or maybe you listened on Spotify and left a 5-star rating. Hopefully, please.
Be nice,
or maybe you listen on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. Sally penetrated Brian in the Orkneys.
Ooh, a powerful place to get penetrated.
Powerful stuff.
Yep.
Speaking of powerful, where can people find us on etc.? Tony.
Neveronanything.com or Tony Ez on Substack.
Tom. Do you want to be? Do you want?
Yeah. Why not this time? Yeah, I'm on Letterboxd. You can find me at this chucklehead. I review film. Just use the place to review some films I watched. It's quite nice.
And as you can tell from Tom's wonderful appearances on this show, his opinions are actually valid and worth it.
Yeah.
So you can, unlike me, where you can follow me on social media at Jester Diablo, and likewise, also if you want to support the show, go to acpgear.redbubble.com.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll be adding new stuff there, which I'm working on at the moment. And yes, we've got more guests and more excitement coming up. So look forward to that, folks, and look forward to everything from the summer of comics. We need to think about that. Let's workshop that. From Tony, Tom, and myself, have a brilliant week, no matter where you are in the world. We hope you're happy, healthy, and reading lots of comics you enjoy, no matter where you read them and how you read them. Find your special place and read them there. That sounds weird when I said it out loud. It was. Anyway, until next week, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.